What is good, Saints fans? This is Ross Jackson with the Canal Street Chronicles, and welcome back to another episode of our YouTube series here. What just happened? The Saints are what just happened. 38-3, absolutely pulverizing the division rival Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. Drew Brees comes out on top in the Battle of the GOATs Part 2 for this season, and we're going to recap it all as we do here every week. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, comment below with your thoughts on this pretty big victory for the New Orleans Saints, pushing them right up to number one in the NFC South and number one in the NFC, thanks to through a tiebreaker with the Seattle Seahawks and Green Bay Packers. So this is all good news all the time for the New Orleans Saints. Let's go ahead and break it down. We'll start off with just sort of the way that this game sort of trickled through. I mean, the Saints went into halftime here up 31-0. Absolutely not a chance for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get anything going. Couldn't convert a third down in the first quarter. They didn't convert a third down in the first, I think it was 4 possessions. I know 3 possessions for certain. There was only 1 out of 6 third down conversions converted in the first half, and they were 1 of 9 Tampa Bay during the entire game. Meanwhile, the Saints were 9 of 4. They just continued extending drives and continued to perform well. Drew Brees had a very good game, completing passes to 11 different players. Jameis Winston later on in the game got involved and then ended up completing another pass to a 12th receiver in Michael Burton that ties a modern day era record for most active players with a touch, or most active players rather with a reception for an NFL team. Traquan Smith, Adam Troutman, Emmanuel Sanders, and Josh Hill all catching touchdowns throughout this game. The first 3 in the first half, and Alvin Kamara ran in for a touchdown. A couple of field goals added by Will Lutz throughout as well, and then 1 late field goal, or I guess second half field goal really, by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to make it, at least a little bit more stomachable in terms of the way that this game was going for them. 3 interceptions for the Saints defense as well, 1 from each safety, and Marcus Williams and Malcolm Jenkins. And there was also a pass that was deflected by both Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan, ended up in the hands of Big O David Onyemata, who ran it back for a little bit and set up the Saints to score yet again later on in that drive. The Saints just absolutely dominated all 3 phases of the game here. We talked about the third down conversion rate that the Saints held Tampa Bay to. It goes beyond that. You look at the first half in terms of field position, the Saints started their drives at an average of their own 44, while Tampa Bay started their drives at an average of their own 20. Remember, the Saints would go on to shut out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that first half as well. All told on the game, the Saints averaged start on their own 37, while the Tampa Bay Buccaneers averaged a start on their own 27. The Saints also dominated time of possession, 40 minutes and 4 seconds to Tampa Bay's 19 minutes and 56 seconds. The Saints more than doubled Tampa Bay's time of possession in this game. Drew Brees officially becomes the first quarterback to beat Tom Brady twice in a season. And this is the first time that Tom Brady has ever been swept by a division rival. It's a lot different over here in the NFC South than it is in that AFC East. That is for certain. Couple other little things to hit for the team. The Saints 5 of 7 in the red zone in terms of the touchdowns they were able to turn around, the scores they were able to turn around. But the Saints held Tampa Bay 0-1 in the red zone. And this was really impressive by them because it was a goal to go situation. Before this game, the Saints were 13 of 13 in terms of giving up touchdowns in goal to go situations. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were 22 of 22 in terms of converting those 4 touchdowns. And the Saints got a stop, all really thanks to 2 big plays on first and fourth down by Marshawn Lattimore, eliminating Mike Evans in the end zone, and then 2 big plays, 1 in the run game and then 1 in the passing game, guarding Rob Gronkowski by Demario Davis. So those guys combined for that big goal line stand. The Saints also forced Tampa Bay to run only 5 times. That is the lowest ever in the NFL in terms of carries, and in the midst of that, they averaged only 1.6 yards. Meanwhile, the Saints ran on the ground 37 times in this one. And even though the Saints did pass the ball quite a bit, they completed 82.9% of their passes as compared to Tampa Bay, completing only 57.9% of theirs. Let's go ahead and hit some of our top performers here. We'll start off over on the offensive side. Of course, we'll start with quarterback Drew Brees, 26 of 32, 222 yards and 4 touchdowns. That puts him at 563 all-time passing touchdowns. Now +3 over Tom Brady, who threw no touchdowns in this game. Taysom Hill had 123 total yards, no touchdowns in this one, but 48 passing yards, 54 rushing yards, and 21 receiving yards as well, making up for really a light day for Alvin Kamara because he ended up being the guy to pick up all of those total yards all around the offense. Michael Thomas, 5 catches on 6 targets for 51 yards in his big return. That was great to have just that. It just felt like things were a lot more planned, a lot more mechanical, a lot more just sort of detailed with having Drew Brees and Michael Thomas working together again. Then you had Adam Troutman catch his first career touchdown, and then wrapping up over on the offense, just a reminder, 12 total players catching passes, which tied a modern day record for the New Orleans Saints. Then jumping over to the defensive side, we'll shout out defensive tackle David Onyemata, who had an outstanding game, made some great plays, 4 hits on the quarterback in this one, 1 pass defended, and then of course, the big interception that was deflected by Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan ending up in the hands of David Onyemata. Big turnover there for the Saints, who had 3 interceptions all told on the day. Marshawn Lattimore didn't get any of those interceptions, but he was targeted 5 times, allowed only 2 receptions for 25 yards, and when in primary coverage with Mike Evans for the second game in a row, a big goose egg, 0 to wrap up the season between the two of them. To punctuate that, Marshawn Lattimore retweeted that very stat and said, "Better luck next year." On the defensive line, we'll shout out Trey Hendrickson, who was credited with 2 sacks and 3 total tackles. 3 sacks, or really he had 3 sacks in a row at one point, but the very first one ended up being erased by a penalty. He followed that up with 2 more sacks back to back after that. Malcolm Jenkins had an interception and played very well on defense, making a lot of plays against running backs in the flat, limiting yards after catch. Malcolm Jenkins all over the field in this one. Same thing for Demario Davis, but in particular, I want to shout out that red zone stop that we highlighted just a moment ago. Now, when it comes down to next week, there's 3 things that I want to see. First of all, continue this momentum. This is a big time confidence building game. I know it's a divisional game, and you usually sort of have to accept that these are games that can be thrown out quite a bit, but still, this was a game and a win against one of the teams, or really one of the teams across the NFL that is considered to be one of the best teams in the league. So take that, carry that going forward up against an absolutely decimated roster for the San Francisco 49ers, who they'll play next weekend. Make sure that you sustain this production that's both on the offensive and on the defensive side. Particularly on the offensive side, you've got Michael Thomas, who's come back. Emmanuel Sanders came back and caught a touchdown in this one. Deontay Harris just does amazing things with the ball in his hand. You still have the offensive player of the year, and in my opinion, somebody that should be in the MVP conversation with Alvin Kamara, and Drew Brees is playing absolutely lights out right now over these last few games. So build on that production and continue it, sustain it, find a way to get it done, and being able to hit 12 different receivers to catch passes in this offense, that will definitely help you do that. Over on the defensive side, you sustain that production by continuing to execute. Nothing really changed in this game in terms of how the Saints decided to play defense. It's just that they executed, they played very well, and that is what held them up. And then finally, build with this new foundation. Like I mentioned, Marquez Callaway came back, Emmanuel Sanders came back, Michael Thomas came back, Marshawn Lattimore looks rejuvenated, Janoris Jenkins is playing well. They're figuring out Malcolm Jenkins' role really well. You've got Quan Alexander potentially coming in. He might bump Alex Anzalone out the way. However it all comes down, whatever your new foundation looks like, just continue to build upon it. That starts here. The identity that this team wants to have. They showed themselves against Tampa Bay, wiping them out 38-3 in Tampa, away from the dome at that. Now they'll head back home to take on and host the San Francisco 49ers. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Canal Street Chronicles What Just Happened YouTube series. I appreciate you, as always, very much for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and then drop a comment below. Let us know how you feel after this big-time Saints win, once again, 38-3 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Week 9. 6-2, these New Orleans Saints sitting atop the NFC South and the NFC.